Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Sweet House. Today's episode is super special because we have a star in the house. Meet Arianna Rosario. She is in town for the Moulin Rouge, and she is the star of the Moulin Rouge, the Diamond. She is playing Satine, and so it is an honor to have you here today. So thank you for coming to The Sweet House.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
She's fresh off the road. You've been on tour with Moulin Rouge for almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years now, yeah.
And now you're finally in Nashville, and we're grateful to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. My last time in Nashville was actually like 8 years ago on the Cats tour.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like it's changed so much even from then. And we were only here for like 1 week that last time. So
I think I probably had just moved to Nashville then.
Probably just moved in, yeah. But like with the 2 weeks here, I'm really excited to get out and go eat and like just kind of explore a little bit more.
Yeah, well, nice. Nashville has changed tremendously since you were here 8 years ago. And we are an artsy city. We've always been a music city, but I think you're really going to enjoy all the food and just everything in the city. And speaking of, so she just told you guys she's been on the Cats tour. She's also been in Cinderella. She has also been in Rent, which is another one of my favorites. I've actually never seen Rent on Broadway.
Really?
But yeah, I really want to see it. Is it still touring?
I'm not sure if the tour is still going. I know that they have like an Asia tour right now.
Yeah.
So
I guess I'm gonna have to go clean across the world to go see this. But Rent was always one of my favorite movies. I feel like you are drafted to roles. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're drafted to roles that are like free and just joyful. So would you describe your personality as somebody who's free and joyful and creative? Like, what are you like?
Absolutely. I think it's all of that. Like, I don't know. I feel like I try to have a positive air about me. Obviously, not everything's always going to be like super happy. You have moments where, you know, you're going through tough times, but I try to use that positivity in my everyday life so I can spread joy to everyone, which is why I love performing. Like it's less of me being up there and wanting the applause or wanting any of that. It's to have people have an amazing experience or feel something or, you know, resonate with a character in some way.
Yeah. You know? Well, it's interesting to see this side of you because we get to see Satine. Yeah. And when the curtains come up, you see Satine. She is draped in diamonds and singing the song. And that's an iconic moment. Like when we saw Moulin Rouge, the movie in, I don't know, I think 2014 or 2015 was when it was like 2001. Was it 2001?
Yeah.
It was early 2000.
Early 2000.
I don't know why my mind was thinking the teens. It was definitely 20 years ago, which is a long time.
Crazy. Yeah.
But now, and there's the Broadway show. And so did you feel pressured to kind of live up to the movie with Nicole Kidman and like, especially that scene? I rewatched the movie before I went to the show last night. And I have to tell you that you blew me away when the curtains came up.
Thank you so much.
So how does that feel to know that you stepped into the shoes of a queen like Nicole Kidman?
It's really exciting. Like that movie for me was so iconic. And it's one of my favorite, I guess you can call it like a movie musical because there is like so much music within it. But seeing like that love story between like Nicole Kidman and even like kind of pan out and watching her come down as this like sparkling diamond, I was like, oh, if this ever becomes a musical, like I need to play that role at some point. Like I already knew it like as a kid watching the musical.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy, yeah.
20 years, and then now we're all seeing it. I think the millennials were having a wonderful time last night. We actually went to a little happy hour with TPAC, which is the Tennessee Performing Arts Center here in Nashville, which is where the show is taking place for the next 2 weeks. So you guys make sure you head downtown to see Satine do her thing because it's absolutely amazing, and you're going to want to dance and sing. I think everybody in our section was singing. Like
I think people do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, like I'll sometimes hear it, especially at the end of Diamonds, like the Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. I have that break before I sing Friend. And I'll sometimes hear in the audience people sing along and go, Friend.
Oh, I had to contain myself. And I think everyone in my section was kind of containing themselves. Yeah. So we were all like singing under our breath the entire show. Aww. So I was like, I hope this lady beside me is not thinking that I'm crazy, because I am literally over here mumbling. So we were singing every word of the show. Yeah. But I want to learn about your audition process for Moulin Rouge, because you saw this movie 20 years ago with the rest of us.
I did.
Then you saw yourself being Satine one day. And so when the audition time came, what was that like?
So my process with the show has been like very interesting in a way. So I initially auditioned for the Broadway company for one of the Heels tracks, one of the Can Can Girls that covered Arabia. And I went into that audition. It was just a day audition. I did some combos. I sang for them, and I booked that job on Broadway and was with the Broadway company for like a year and a half. But during my time in the Broadway company, there was a rehearsal that we were having one day, like understudy rehearsal. And a member from our directing team came up to me and was like, hey, are you possibly interested in like principal coverage? And in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm dancing in the show, so it's probably for Nini, like, because I also sang. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, for Satine. And I said, oh, yes, yes, absolutely.
Oh, divine intervention.
Yeah, so I went in and I had a work session at that time with our director and music director from the show. And it wasn't until 6 months later that I would say like six to 8 months later, that I got the audition for Satine for the tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So how did that feel to know you went in for one thing and then you came out with something even bigger?
It's kind of amazing. And it's really incredible that at this point, like that was March of 22, that I've seen the show now from so many different perspectives, and I've been able to tell this story from so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels great to even have that like growth, because Satine in the story has, you know, worked her way up to where she is to be this sparkling diamond.
Yeah, and made a lot of sacrifices.
And has made a lot of sacrifices to do that. And so in a way, I'm like, yeah, I've also like, I've been working really hard for the past, you know, over 10 years of my career to be in a position like this with this show.
Can we talk about that though? Because everybody thinks that there's this fast track to fame and success because of what we see on social media.
Yeah.
And so here you are going into an audition for one thing, but then you get the opportunity to be the main star of a Broadway show that is iconic and has a cult following. And so I just want to ask you, like, did you ever think that that was going to happen? Did you think that you were going to be, because you went in, because you and I were talking about imposter syndrome even before we started filming this. And we were talking about stepping into roles and even thinking, do we deserve to be here, and having that imposter syndrome. But as you said, you've been working for 10 years and your moment finally came. And so your due diligence paid off.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's, you get what you like, the work that you put into it. Like you get out of it the work that you put into it. And like we were talking before, like I initially went into this industry wanting to be like a contemporary ballerina, like not even on the Broadway side of things. I loved musicals, and I did some in high school, like with at the school that I went to. But being like the star of a show, I hoped at one point that would be something, but in my mind I was like, no, I'm just going to dance. Like I want to be a ballerina, and that's all I want to do. Yeah. And it wasn't until a friend of mine that I was working with told me, he's like, the national tour of West Side Story is going out. You should audition. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, it's kind of like not in line with like what I feel like is my, you know, path right now. And he was like, it's Jerome Robbins, and you sing and you act. Yeah. Like, you should go audition.
You sing.
and I went and auditioned for the show, and I booked the tour, and I covered Maria and Anita. So it was like two completely points in my voice that like I was able to use. And I learned everything through working. So I learned my script analysis and like timing for certain things. And my music director at that time, he was like, have you ever had a voice lesson? I was like, no.
Yeah. I think that's remarkable.
And we sat there like in my rehearsals for Maria and for Anita. And he was like, let me teach you how to do like a proper vocal warm up. And like, this is kind of vowel modification. And this is, so it's like, I've learned everything on the job, which I think is great. And
yeah. I think it says a lot about you. So she and I were talking before about how she didn't start ballet until you were 10 years old, and then you didn't take voice lessons. So you just have this immense talent that was waiting to be center stage. And so, but at the same time, you worked the talent to get to where you are. So it's no shock to me that they saw you and were like, okay, she is Satine. So there you go.
When I'm grateful too to our like all of our creative team for seeing that in me, because that was something that they were like, oh no, I think she can do this.
Yeah.
And bringing me in, it was just like waiting for the right opportunity to open up to have me kind of take over in this capacity.
So I know you said you didn't initially want to go into Broadway. Was there ever a point before you got the role of Satine that you were like, I have been working so hard, I am just ready to just call it quits or go in a different direction because I'm not where I think I should be? Because we all grapple with that in our careers, where we're kind of like, well, we think it's time for something to happen for us and it hasn't happened yet. Yeah. But for you, it's like you've been working all this time in New York. I assume you were in New York the entire 10 years.
For most part. Yeah. I was on a few tours here and there, but basically worked out of New York.
Well, based in New York, but traveling the world because she's a worldwide woman. So like, did you ever just, I guess, feel like your moment was not coming fast enough?
I don't know if it was that it wasn't coming fast enough, because like we had talked before, I always feel like what's meant for you like won't pass you by. But there were definitely a lot of moments where I would get frustrated, and when you're auditioning and in final callbacks for something, which happened a few times, like you should still see those as a win, because you're now like, you've been narrowed down to like the final like 3 or 4 for something. But then to maybe not book that, or put all of that work and become really connected to this character that you end up maybe not getting in the end, like it's always disappointing to say the least. But those things don't happen to make way for something like this to now.
And you also needed to be a diamond in the rough before she became the diamond on stage.
That's true.
Can we talk about your voice, how incredible it is?
Thank you.
When I say she sang. I don't think I've like heard a voice like this. I was looking at some reviews and someone said she's a tiny person with a huge voice. And so, well, no one was singing while you were singing. Every solo moment that you had, we were all like,
it was funny too, because AK, who plays Nini in the show, we walked off stage at one point. She's like, I can tell they're enjoying it, but they are quiet.
Yeah, we were just enthralled. Like every time you had your solo moment, I think we were just like, we're just going to sit here. Now, when everybody else gets on stage, we'll sing along. But as long as Satine is up there, we're just going to sit here. So your voice is truly captivating. And it's really cool and interesting that you didn't have voice lessons and you didn't have all this training. Like you kind of just are a natural God-given talent. Well, not kind of, you are a natural God-given talent that has really worked really hard to get to where you're trying to go. So what would you say to somebody who maybe doesn't have all the resources to invest in acting school or go to Juilliard or all the traditional ways that we think we have to go to make it to the star role of a Broadway show?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like everyone's path is going to be different. So not everyone, like you see, even with me, like I didn't go to like one of the top musical theater schools or to Juilliard, but I used every resource that I could find, like watching videos like on YouTube of, acting classes or things, or master classes like on YouTube, or reading books all the time. I even started like, I guess, like officially like taking lessons, singing lessons, like in 2023. It was like when I was like, no, I'm like, this is what I want to do, I need to find someone and I need to just like get an understanding of like how this works if I want to be like, the lead of a show at some point. So
yeah,
I think it's really just finding other resources. Like college can be expensive, especially in the arts. And, if that may not be, if you know that you want to perform, and you can also take dance lessons or take it doesn't always have to be in a university setting. If you can immerse yourself in different ways.
So this is a conversation that I have with everyone who comes on the show, whether or not they should go to college, because traditional college was the thing for our generation. Yeah. It was like, go to college, get a job. But the new generation is teaching us that you can also either go to college and go after, we don't have to play the game of life. Like we can do both, or we can choose to do one or the other.
Yeah.
So if you could tell somebody which one to do in today's time in 2024, what would you say?
I think it's all dependent on you and your journey, right? Because I feel like there's some people that at 18 are like, no, I'm ready to go, and I'm just going to move to New York, and I'm going to go and do this thing, and are so ready to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's other people that are like, yes, I want to do that, but there's still things I feel like I need to learn.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's dependent on the person. Like I went to a conservatory for dance and was like in ballet and modern classes from 8 a.m. until like 7 p.m. with rehearsals. So that was its own sort of experience.
New York is a teacher though.
New York, I feel like if you're in New York, like you're bound to learn something from somebody that's there.
Yeah.
And there's so many different like outlets for you to like find free classes or find, donation-based classes as well.
So you are headed to Chattanooga next.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go to Memphis after that.
Yes.
And they get the sweet treat of hearing Satine sing and all of that. So what are you looking forward to when you travel to each city? Is it the food? Is it performing for a different audience? Like, what do you look forward to?
I'm a huge foodie, so I like to eat across America with all of these tours and find the places to kind of go to. I've never been to Chattanooga or to Memphis, so this will be my first time in both of them. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, Chattanooga has Ruby Falls, so make sure you get a second to go check out Ruby Falls. It's absolutely beautiful, and you should sing in the caves. When you're there, sing and just listen to the acoustics in the caves because it's amazing. And then when you go to Memphis, Memphis is the home of the blues, and it is also not known as Music City, but it is very much so a music city. Yeah, so you should go check out Stax Records and go eat Huey's. Huey's has the best cheeseburger in Memphis. They also have great Philly cheese chicken sandwiches. I mean, the food in Memphis.
Great to know.
I will go home. I'm going to give you a list before you leave from here. Because the food in Memphis is incredible. So you think you might not be able to fit in your costume.
Oh, that is corsets. That is something.
How do you manage eating on the road and life on the road? What does that look like?
It's tough. I prefer to stay in places where I can have a kitchen because I like to cook. And I find that way I can also, when it comes to the show, I have to eat a certain amount of hours before, so I can digest, so I can like be in the corset and not feel like super full. But then I'll usually have like a big meal after the show. But it's definitely tough. Like I travel like a bag in our trunk. We get like a trunk that the company travels around for us that has my olive oil and my seasonings and all of my things. And in every city I pull that out, bring it home.
Yeah.
I'm just like, cook.
So you cook and she performs and she's doing it all on the shows. And we were talking about the costumes.
Yeah.
Each city has their own costume designer that helps out, or
so we have a local that we pick up in every city.
Okay.
So the show travels with a Satine dresser, Stephanie Swigard, who is amazing and takes care of me in every way. But we pick up a local dresser in every city. And so on the first night of every city, our opening night, we run some of my quick changes and run things with that dresser. They get a list of kind of what the track looks like. And then Stephanie is there to oversee and kind of make sure that everything goes smoothly, which is
Have you had
amazing.
any wardrobe mishaps?
So far, no.
Yeah.
I've had nothing off stage. On stage, there was one day where I wear that long train during Shut Up and Raise Your Glass, and my heel going up and down the diamond, like going up, and down the stairs got caught in that. And so that was its own sort of thing, trying to figure out how to keep walking gracefully and like do the scene while like almost like hobbling on the one leg. But yeah, it's been, even here for the quick changes last night, I was early for a lot of them and just waiting in the wing, which was like,
waiting in the wing. I feel like
I was like, I had no time. I was like, oh, okay,
I have time. Yeah. I was watching one of your TikToks and it was something like you were talking about the time that you had between shows or something like that. And it all goes really fast. So, I mean, what's that like? Can you talk to us about a day in the life of a Broadway star, from whether or not you're going to rehearsal or going
I mean,
straight?
right now there isn't, as you were saying, like I don't have much like rehearsal anymore during the day unless we have creatives in or we're revisiting a part of the show. But a lot of my show is like preparing for the night show. So like waking up and steaming and like vocalizing and trying to figure out where my voice is that morning. And if I need more water or if I need, to do like a vocal massage or something like that. Warming up. I still warm up every single day. Even when I was the alternate in the show, I warmed up every single day to keep my voice kind of
ready to go.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you guys, as amazing as she was initially the alternative for Satine until 3 weeks ago. And so 3 weeks ago, the world got a special treat. But before then, I want to talk about you being an alternative for Satine and what that was like. And I mean, how often did you perform? And what was that like to wait until the stage opened up for the new Satine?
Yeah. So as the alternate, it's an interesting gig because you're scheduled once a week. So essentially me and the alternate for the role, like share the role because that you're only really there to do that job. But you are waiting basically backstage until that scheduled performance every week. And, it'll also be the first line in the event of a vacation or like just needing a day or anything like that. But it was an interesting, I've never done anything where I wasn't on stage. Yeah. Like even in an ensemble capacity where I was just kind of backstage. Yeah. And it's an interesting place to be because you still have to be ready to go. Yeah. Like, you can't stay up late.
Has it ever happened to where Satine needed to be switched out in the middle of the show?
Never in the middle of the show while I've been on, but there have been, I guess typically we try to give as much notice as possible. So there was only one time where it was like a closer like call to showtime. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't, eat too much yet, or I didn't do, because there's always like that balance.
Well, you still have to stay ready for if it's like your night to have to be Satine.
Yeah. So. Typically on those nights I would eat my dinner at the theater. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Everyone's in. Then I can like have my dinner at 7 p.m. while the show's going on. So
the new Satine alternate, will we see her in Nashville?
You will. You'll see Jerica. Yeah. She's wonderful. And she'll be on for the Sunday matinee shows here in Nashville.
Okay. So is Sunday your off day, or you being the main Satine, are you then the backup whenever she's on, or how does that work?
No, I don't have to be in the building.
Oh.
So I get the show
off.
So
is there a third Satine?
We have an understudy as well, who our understudy right now is Raven, who plays Arabia in the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she'll have she's new to the show. She actually, her first show was when I took over as well.
Oh, so 3 weeks ago.
So 3 weeks ago. So she's actually having her put in for Satine next week here in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
Which will be exciting. So she's been in rehearsal this whole time, learning the track on top of playing Arabia every night. So,
oh wow. Do you have any input as the head Satine as to how they play the role, or do you guys talk about it?
I mean, we talk about sometimes moments, or if there's like a girl, how did you do that, or like how are you breathing during this moment? Especially during Diamonds, because there's so much dancing. So it's like finding those moments where like you can take a second. But our creative team really encourages each of us like to kind of paint within the restrictions of like what the role is. So we can color her in a different way. And a lot of times it's personal to like who we are. And like we bring those things out,
Yeah.
Which I think is really exciting.
Yeah, that is really cool that you get to like embody Satine in the way that you are as a person, which brings me to my next question of Satine's emotional journey. Because if you guys don't know anything about Moulin Rouge, Satine is in the middle of a love triangle, and she has an interesting background where she has worked her way up to be the star of the Moulin Rouge. And then there are some tricks going on behind the scenes, and she's juggling and grappling with all of those different things. But you get on stage, and your warm, bubbly, joyful personality that we were talking about at the beginning of this episode then has to embody Satine.
This like weight that she has to her. It's literally like, I think that's something even I always say as women, like we tend to sometimes feel like we're juggling like 8 plates in the air at the same time. Yeah. Which a lot of that is what Satine is dealing with. Like
I was dropping off my daughter and had applesauce on me before we got here.
But I feel like she's dealing with that as well. Like she has, the people in the Moulin Rouge are her family. And which everyone learns at the beginning, she's needing to save the Moulin Rouge, which is why they're bringing in the Duke to kind of like fund a lot of, their success. Yeah. And within all of that, she happens to fall in love, and it's something that Ziegler says, like, we're creatures of the underworld. We can't afford to love because her main job is to perform and to be there. And so,
and in some sense, like the storyline says, she's been doing this since she was a teenager. Yeah. And so now that she's older,
she's almost aging out.
Yeah, she's aging out. And so for women in Broadway, what does that look like? Because I know I hear it all the time in the music industry and every other industry. I think influencers are starting to shift that narrative.
I think so too.
Because influencers are like, I can be a 50-year-old influencer and influence other people. I can be a senior citizen influencer and influence other people. So what does it look like in Broadway to get older?
It's an interesting thing because I feel like there's this huge gap of stories that from like late 30s into like mid 50s that we just don't have. There you go from being almost like the ingenue to like
the young prodigy,
this young, bright-eyed sort of like these roles into then like these leading sort of like really strong, women to mom. And then all of a sudden it's like the older, like more mature sort of roles. And I feel like, I don't know that it always needs to be that way. Yeah. Like, I don't know that.
Do you feel that correlation between Satine getting older and then your own career in the Broadway industry sometimes? Do you worry about it?
I try not to.
Yeah. Yeah. And just enjoy the moment.
I'm just trying to enjoy the moment and to just try to, I know that this is something that I want to do for the long run. And hopefully as Broadway is growing and, we're getting more storytellers and we're getting, more stories written, that hopefully there is a world for people to kind of stop looking at women that, you've turned 40 and that's it.
It's over.
Like,
yeah.
What? No.
I thought 30 somethings were old and I thought 40 somethings were old until I got here. I just turned 35 last week. And I'm like, I feel 16. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Exactly. I know.
I feel like a young girl. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about. Exactly. And I also want people to see that it doesn't stop when we get older. Like we can still continue to do what we want to do with our lives. Yeah. So she's also married.
Yes.
And she's been married for 6 years. 6 years. And he is a lucky man. He gets to be serenaded by you.
Oh my gosh. I get to be serenaded by him. He's also a singer. So
he's a singer and an actor. And so how do you guys juggle like married life? I know you're out on tour and he's probably coming to enjoy the show with the rest of us.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially being married to another performer. I think in some cases, sometimes it doesn't work because of the competition of everything. One person may be working and one person's not. And then there's that jealousy or there's that like resentment that kind of happens. And we've always said, even from our earliest days, that like his success is my success and my success is his success. And I'm so excited for him when things are happening, even if I may be in a period where I'm not working or I'm transitioning between two jobs. And it's kind of the same with him. And we've been really lucky.
But it's cool that you both are in that industry. So you kind of understand that this is what it looks like.
This is what it looks like. And we've been lucky too. At the beginning of when we were dating, we got to do a lot of shows together. So we were both in On Your Feet together on Broadway, and we did the tour for a little bit. And when I did Evita, like he was my Juan Perón, he was my husband in the show, and while it was Eva. And things sort of shifted when everything kind of shut down during the pandemic. And, you know, we went to Atlanta. He's from Atlanta. So we went back to Atlanta and kind of stayed there. But he ended up leaving on tour once things started reopening, and was on the Jesus Christ Superstar tour as Judas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And was on that for like 8-9 months. And while he was on the road, I was in Moulin Rouge on Broadway. And then he finally came back, and we were like, yes, we get to like be together.
What do your families think about all of the things that you guys are doing?
Oh, they're so supportive.
Yeah.
They're really supportive of it. And
is your family still in Florida?
I have like my mom and my stepdad's family are all in Florida. My dad's family is mostly in New Jersey and like some in New York. So
have they seen the show yet?
My mom, when I was in Florida, we did a stop in Fort Lauderdale. So like all of my like Florida family came. We haven't been close enough to with the tour to anything in to be to New York. So a lot of like my New Jersey family hasn't, but my grandma and my aunt did. They flew down to Fort Lauderdale to do like a girls' weekend to like have a moment.
To get their Moulin Rouge on. Did they put on a little more rouge?
Yeah. And so my grandma got to see the show, and she was just like beaming, and I was so just so proud.
Is grandma's review way more important than everybody else's review of the show?
Yes, absolutely. And she'll be the first. It was funny because we have like stage door, and sometimes people will want to, you know, take a picture or do something. And just to see her like smiling so hard at like, you know, she told everyone, she's like, that's my granddaughter. She's like, I'm the grandma. Like, no, I'm her grandma. Like, I'm so proud. Like,
I love that. I actually met Christian's sister in the lobby last night.
Oh my gosh.
So she was also excited to see him. So we had a brief run in the lobby, and I was like, well, Satine's coming to my show tomorrow.
Oh, that is so
but
sweet.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. What's it like to play with Christian and then the Duke, which is that a strange dynamic? What's it like to be pulled back and forth in this love triangle?
Oh, it's I mean, we're just having fun up there, to be honest. Like, Christian is so wonderful to play opposite.
And Christian's real name is Christian.
His real name is Christian. Also, which we always joke about whenever we're in a circle. He's like, I'm Christian and I'm Christian. It's always like a joke. But he is so consistent every single night, and so giving, and so like grounded, and just like open to play, and so vulnerable, and singing with him is a dream. Like he's a musician, and it's just being able to sing with someone where we can like play a little bit on stage is like so nice.
And a lot of you guys, I was reading through the playbill, a lot of you guys have been on tours, I don't know at the same time, but together, I'm assuming, or at different times.
Probably at different times. Yeah.
I saw some people had like played in Rent, and some people in West Side Story. So did you know anybody on the tour?
Prior to getting here, I'm trying to think. When I first joined the tour, there were a few people. There were two of our Flats ensemble that I actually did the Cats tour with. And also did a show years and years ago. I did West Side Story regionally, and did it with one of them as well. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm finding, as we were saying, as I'm getting older, like a lot of people that I was doing this with kind of have either retired and are like living in the suburbs and have their families or have transitioned into other roles within theater. So
I'm not a suburban girl just yet.
Yeah. I say the same
city
too.
Girl. Yeah. And I actually took my daughter to the zoo on Sunday.
Yeah.
And we had a play date, and my friend and her daughter, they moved out to the suburbs. And I said, I don't think the suburbs is for me just yet. So I'm going to stay in the city with the lights and the Moulin Rouge. I need it all.
Yeah.
I need the energy from the Moulin Rouge. Speaking of transitions, I've also seen you do stuff on TV, Queen Sugar and a couple other shows. So what was your experience like on television versus Broadway?
It's such a different experience. It's weird. And I love both for different reasons. I feel like when I do like TV and film, there's this like intimacy that you can get because the camera is like so close. You can do things a little bit smaller and it's really about like that moment.
Yeah.
But you get so many takes sometimes.
Yeah, with TV.
With TV, like you can cut and like, oh, I didn't love how, like, can we just do that again or try that again? Or which I think is so interesting. But what I love about theater so much, it's such a...
It's live.
It's live and mishaps happen, and it's kind of like the excitement and working through those little things. Like last night my heel got caught in during pitch song.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, this I have to implement into this moment, and it's already a little bit chaotic and improv and make it happen. And I think that's so there's like this, I don't know, this thing with a live performance that I really, really, really love.
Is it harder to break into Broadway or harder to break into TV?
Oh, I think it's both the same.
Yeah. So how did you get the role with Queen Sugar? Queen Sugar was such a hit show.
It's such a hit show.
Yeah.
So during the pandemic, like I said, my husband and I, we moved to Atlanta, and while Broadway was kind of shut down, and think TV and film in Atlanta was still finding a way to get things out and make it happen.
Tyler Perry Studios
was working, and a lot of like the Marvel stuff was still kind of working. And Queen Sugar, actually, their casting offices they're in Atlanta.
Oh,
and so a friend of mine put me in touch with a local agent that was down there. And throughout that year that I was living there, I was just auditioning and working on different sets, and was still excited to create in a time when, everything was like shut down.
Yeah. The world did shut down, and Broadway came back with a vengeance.
It came back. Moulin Rouge was actually the first show I saw with Broadway coming back. Yeah. And I saw it on reopening night.
Oh, wow.
Which was the 24th of September. Yeah. And I took over this on the 24th of September. So it's
that
like
is crazy, because guess what? My birthday is September 24th.
Really? Mine is the 23rd.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Your birthday's September 23rd?
Yes.
We're like right on the cusp of Libra and Virgo. Yeah, that is wild. Yeah. Well, happy belated birthday to you.
To you too.
I feel like we should go out and explore Nashville now.
I know, you have to take me out.
I need to come pick you up and take you out, because Nashville also has really good food and lots of cool things going on here too. So yeah, I gotta get you out when you're off work.
On our off day. We're off on Monday, so.
Yeah, so you're off one day a week.
Off one day a week.
Yeah. And so you're off one day, you're traveling another day, and then you're on the show for 5 days. Is that how it works?
Basically 6 days. So like Tuesday through Sunday. So even though I don't do that Sunday matinee, because we have two shows, I come back and I do the evening show.
Yeah. Do you guys fly or do you drive?
It depends on
where you are.
Where we
I
are.
assume you're going to be driving to Chattanooga.
We're driving to Chattanooga and driving to Memphis, but then we'll be flying to Tampa, which is our stop after that.
Oh, okay. Well, it's kind of nice that you get to hit all the cities. Yeah. So yeah, like back to back to back. Nashville was a great start, and then Chattanooga, like I said, is going to be a fun one. It's a smaller town. It's a little quaint. You said you've never been to Chattanooga. No. Chattanooga is adorable. It's a Hallmark movie town. So, and then, like I said, when you go to Memphis has soul, and Memphis is known as the city of grit and grind. And so you are going to go and get a $5 cup of coffee from a local shop owner in Memphis. And then you're going to go to the Orpheum And the Orpheum is gorgeous.
I'm excited for
it. It is an experience in and of itself. I feel like someone should film you going to the Orpheum, then doing your show.
Yeah.
You need make all the TikTok videos.
Oh, I know.
The Orpheum also has a spirit about it that's just, it's an old theater that has so much legacy, and you're going to feel it. When you walk in there, you feel the energy of the Orpheum.
Oh, that's so
But
exciting.
you feel the energy of Memphis anyways. Oh, and the Civil Rights Museum is there too.
Oh, amazing.
So yeah, you have to go to the Civil Rights Museum, and they are celebrating everybody's culture and heritage. I know you also just celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month.
We have one more week.
I know. So I saw you made a TikTok about that.
I
so
did.
That's super cool. So yeah, there's so much that you can get into in Memphis. It's a very diverse city that's like welcoming, and like I said,
I'm excited. I'm staying like a block away from the Orpheum, so I'll be kind of around
We'll take
it all.
the trolley up and down Main Street.
Yeah.
It's just a cool place. So go to Beale Street.
Yes.
Alfred's on Beale has incredible food. I feel like I should be like the Memphis tourism spokesperson over here. I'm like with Sean, and Sean's from Memphis as well. Sean and Aaron, the ones who are working in the studio, so they can also tell you that it has some good food too. So you're in good hands when you go there. Moulin Rouge, the musical, is all about truth, beauty, freedom, and love, in which you and I were talking about those principles and just how do these resonate with your own personal journey and your own career?
Oh, wow. I mean,
like I said, I feel like all the musicals that you've done are all...
They all kind of embody that,
they
or
do.
parts of it in some ways. Like, I mean, even going through it, I'm like, I try to do all things with truth in all aspects of my life, and just like being truthful and authentic in the way that I like live and approach roles and do all of that. Love, there has to be a love for this, and love for the work, love for, you know, the humans that you have around you that you're creating these worlds with, and love for the project, love for the show. There is a little of which I love about the Moulin Rouge specifically. There is a freedom to come as you are.
Yeah, it is. Everyone dressed up for the show in Nashville. So Chattanooga and Memphis, if y'all are watching, you better bring it, because we all brought it to TPAC last night.
Yeah. But it's an exciting. It's one of the few shows that I've been a part of that is so diverse.
It is very
across
diverse.
Like, you know, different ethnicities, races, like like all of that. I think is so exciting, and I feel like doesn't typically happen for a show that isn't particularly about a certain group of people. You know?
Yeah.
And
I definitely feel like all of the musicals that you've been on have kind of been that way, though. Rent kind of teaches
Rent is also those.
Yeah, the same kind of principles of love and truth and just hope and all that. But your career journey is definitely indicative of that, especially with you going after roles and being able to withstand transitions like the pandemic. It's like, okay, well, Broadway's shut down. So what do I do now? Do I pivot into TV for a little bit and then pivot back into Broadway? And so your career is definitely a sign of you being able to embody all of those for sure. Who've been some of your biggest inspirations on Broadway?
Oh, wow.
Have you seen The Wiz yet, by the way?
I haven't seen The Wiz. I mean, I know the movie, but I haven't seen the
one on Broadway.
The one on Broadway, no.
Because it just came out a few months ago. Well, in the spring, I think.
In the spring, and I think they may have just closed on Broadway, but they are doing a tour, which is will be touring.
Well, TPAC, are we getting The Wiz? I've been told we can't tell, but for now, you need to follow TPAC on social media so we can see if we're going to get The Wiz.
I think one of my biggest influences, actually, it has to be probably Rita Moreno. So I remember West Side Story was one of the first like movie musicals or like and first things that I had ever seen. Yeah. And to watch a story about a culture that was similar to mine, like with a woman who was just like passionate and so vulnerable, and just like, it was really exciting to see like someone have the career that she has had.
Yeah.
Like in entertainment is
amazing.
Wild. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
We were talking about Patti LaBelle's song.
Yes.
And how it has transcended generations. And then we're all sitting there singing it years later. And just like, sometimes people don't even realize how impactful they are.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you that question. Do you realize how impactful you are as Satine in the Moulin Rouge traveling musical, Broadway musical?
It's
because there's a little girl out there or somebody in that audience who is inspired by you and will carry the principles that you're teaching of love and truth and hope, and even listening to this show and saying, oh, I don't have to be in ballet when I'm 2 years old in order for me to be the star of a Broadway show one day. So have you realized who you are, how iconic you are?
Oh, it comes in waves, I guess. I don't know. It can sometimes feel not overwhelming in a good way, like that I am, I guess, like influencing people in that way or impacting people in that way. And sometimes I think I do, like, I not forget, but I don't realize it that's a thing. But then I'll get like a DM from someone, or I'll get like someone that saw the show that like is just so excited, or, you know, I had someone DM me the other night that they're also Dominican. Their family's from the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how much she loved the movie initially, and so she wanted to come and see the stage version for the first time, and she was just so excited and so immersed in this world, and then to find out that I'm also Latina was like such a huge thing for her, and to see that like representation on stage. And I'm like, oh yes, like there's so few of us that are leading a show in this moment.
Yeah.
And so it's...
Well, so few minority women get the opportunity to be leaders, period, on TV.
Absolutely.
I mean, even when you think of Kerry Washington being a primetime role on ABC with Scandal for so long. But had it not been for that show and Annalise Keating, you know, we see these characters. So then now we can see ourselves in these roles. But traditionally we didn't have that option.
Well, and traditionally too, like, unless it was a role that was almost like a stereotype of that culture, or of like, those were kind of the only roles that like really existed, or roles that were the sidekick, but never like the main character. Or roles that couldn't be like, why can I in some capacities only be the maid but not the lawyer,
right?
Like why does it have to be one or the other?
Or why can't I be Olivia Pope and fixing it all?
Which is something that I love so much about Satine. Like she can be anyone. And because you bring your own experiences, and she's still this like strong and vulnerable, confident like woman.
So Satine has a promiscuous grace about her.
Yes.
It's like the promiscuity is not looked at in a negative way. It's almost embraced. And so it's a embracing of a modern woman in a sense. And so it's interesting that this story came to our TV screens 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, we didn't embrace women in that way. And 20 years ago, we definitely were like, she's like gross and whatever. But Satine has this grace and just this, I don't know, the introduction of you being both, of you being able to just be who you are.
Well, I think that's because, even speaking back to the movie, like, we fall in love with her as a person.
Yeah, we're forced to. The story is written so well.
It's written so well, and you fall in love with her and just like what she's having to deal with in that moment. And sometimes I feel like that's a lesson, even just moving forward in life, like to not have this prejudice towards people, and to just take them for what they're going, who they are, and what they're, dealing with in that moment.
Yeah. And then also that no one's job is necessarily like who they are.
Correct.
And
yes.
that's one of the reasons why I also started the Sweet House podcast, to actually talk about people's career trajectories and how they got to where they are, and all the pivots and who they are at the end of the day. Because it's not, your job title doesn't matter. Your training doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, like you are still you, and you are still capable of doing all these different things that you want to do.
Absolutely.
So, and I think your story definitely it shows us that. So I love that you have this grit and grind about you. I think you're going to fit in at Memphis pretty well. If you could go back in time and give yourself any advice on getting into Broadway, what are 3 things you would tell somebody off rip, auditioning, and what does that look like?
I think if I had like 3 things to say, it's always be kind to everyone that you meet, because you never know.
I would agree with that.
You never know, of all, who it is that you're meeting and what they could be doing in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And if they're going to remember an interaction that they had with you that maybe wasn't the best, and everyone has their days, and, you can't judge everyone based off of how they're feeling in that moment, but to strive to be kind to every single person, front of house, back of house, in the audition rooms, like people that work at the front desk, like just all of that.
Yeah.
Never stop learning. Because I feel like sometimes people may reach a particular point where they're like, oh, I've made it and I'm done. Like I did it. But there's always room to learn more and to grow and to learn from your peers and learn from people that are around you.
Yeah.
And I think, which is one that if I were to go back, I would tell myself to just know that no one else is you. And while it's hard to not compare yourself to other people or to other people's trajectories, or it's hard to not feel like, oh, I should be in that same place. Like we both started at the same time. Like how are they already doing this, or how have they, achieved this already, and I'm still waiting.
And your moment's coming.
It's just to know that, like, to have confidence that like your moment is coming, you're enough.
Yeah.
And to just
keep moving.
Yeah. Just keep moving. Yeah.
I love all that advice, because especially in places like Nashville, it's the relationship city. And I mean, in industries like the influencer industry or the music industry or Broadway, I'm sure it's not all in who you know. You clearly have to be able to sing and dance, folks.
But a lot of times it's who you know.
Yeah.
Like
it is.
My husband always, when he coaches sometimes, like we'll coach, like do audition coaching or things like that. And he always says to the kids, he's like, you may walk into a room one day and, the casting director or the director, they're wanting chocolate ice cream.
Yeah.
And you could be the best strawberry ice cream that walks into that room. But if in their mind they're wanting chocolate, they're going to go with the chocolate ice cream. And so it's just realizing that, like, a no sometimes is not because you're not talented or because you're incapable of doing it. Yeah. It's just sometimes they're looking for something that might be hyper specific for the job that they feel that role needs.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it doesn't mean that you're not amazing.
Yeah.
At the same time.
And you are amazing. I do want to ask how you deal with social media, and how do you keep up with social media while you're touring and while you're taking time for yourself and all of that. What does social media look like for you?
It's tough because I like to interact with fans of the show and just people that are,
it's interesting that you say that, because I think people who enjoy performing and enjoy doing it in front of real people, it's kind of hard to do it behind a camera or behind a phone screen. Yeah. Do you feel like that?
I do sometimes. Like I would say when it comes to, I'm not the type of person that I will sit there and talk to my phone. I can't like the stories and all of that. Like I just have a hard time.
I do want to see more of your life though, behind the scenes. That's
behind the scenes.
Can somebody film
but I do like the behind the scenes stuff because I feel like it gives me something to talk about.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, oh, this is how we load in, or like this is what a first, you know, night in a city looks like.
Yeah.
But it's hard to sometimes keep up, and I try, at least for when it comes to like my social media, to keep my private life and like my professional life a little bit more separate. Just, you know.
I always say you do not owe social media your life. And that's the thing. I think people have to realize that. The public has to realize that there are people who would like to not share everything on social media. It's fine if that's what you want to do. But then some of us want to keep some things for ourselves and, you know, just have the moments in our phone and not on the internet.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm happy to share that stuff. But I'm like, not everyone needs to know how to find my grandma on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
it's
not at all. Or everyone needs to know like where you live or what hotel you're staying
or where we're at or any of that.
No.
Like,
Yeah. Do you deal with any comparison on social media?
I try not to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm that person that has like certain like counters and all that stuff like just off.
Yeah.
Cause
you gotta stay focused.
I just like, I'm going to post what I want to post. And I feel like that's with anyone. It's like you post what feels true to you, and you try not to compare on social media because again, you are you and that person is them and not the same. So
no, not at all.
That's what it is.
You learn over 70 songs for the show. And then the choreography is magnificent and the music composition is so incredible. And so how long does it take you to get into all of this choreography and the music? You have to learn all the lyrics and all the transitions. How long does it take you to get into all of it?
So we initially rehearsing for the show, I did 2 weeks in New York. Some people did 3
weeks. It would have took me 4 months.
Yeah. 2 weeks in New York. And then we had 2 weeks on the road, like when we finally like came out before. So about like 4 to 5 weeks for rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy. I mean, I can't learn one song in like 5 days. So it was like 70 songs now.
It was wild. And I was always like in anyone on the creative team, like I was that girl that was like, hold on, let me get my notebook. And I would walk away and write everything down so that I could have it all.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, when you're getting information over like 6 hours of a rehearsal day, what you learned at 10 a.m., you might be like, oh, where did we start? What were we doing?
Yeah.
So for me, it's always important to just like have everything written. So when I go home and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we did. Or Yeah.
Does the choreography ever change?
No.
Okay, it stays the same the whole time you're on tour. So you have been doing the same songs and the same dance for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
And the same just script and everything for almost 2 years. Are you ever tired of doing the same thing every night? No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
There's a world where, you know, we also, there's some days where we have like understudies in, which always like, you know, like, oh, I have a different Lautrec today, or, oh, I have, you know, a new Christian, or whatever the case is. But I think we all, like, for the most part, try to approach the show as like each moment is happening for the first time. And like how we're discovering these things like as we go along. So it's not like, oh, I've already sung this song 6 times this week. It's like, no, I'm discovering like these lyrics for the first time in the context of this show.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, every audience we have is different.
Yeah.
And it's the first time they're experiencing the show. So that's also exciting to see like how
about Nashville.
Oh, I loved it.
Okay.
They're so responsive.
We were all in the I'm saying we were all like a chorus in the audience singing last night.
Yeah. Well, and I know Rob, who plays our Zietler, he has this moment. He gauges the cities on whether or not he gets his chandelier cheer. We call it the chandicheer.
Yeah.
When he starts singing the song.
Yeah.
And he came to me last night and he was like, Ari, I got my chandicheer in Nashville.
Oh,
and he was so
that.
excited about it.
Well, cheers to him. Yeah, we were all so excited the entire show. So, I mean, what's your favorite part of the show?
Oh, there's so many.
The diamond scene is my favorite.
The diamond scene is so
period.
fun. You know what? The diamonds, that whole part has one of my favorite mashups in the show. And so it's like, as the boys are kind of coming out, which you saw the show, the boys are coming out and we're pulling diamond strands from everywhere. It goes from like, and Vogue's Never Gonna Get It into the Diamonds song and then into Brick House. And then there's like a guitar from Jungle Boogie.
Yeah.
And it's like all in the span of like 30 seconds. And it's like one of my favorite like musical, like Justin is a genius for the way he put all of this together.
Yeah. The composition is amazing.
It's so good.
It flows so well. So, I mean, we were all going from like singing one song to the next song. And I think even the audience, even though we were all different generations, everybody knew every last one of those songs.
Well, and that's something with the show. I'm like, the songs in the show span decades. I'm like, I feel like there is something for every single person, like so many decades and different genres, and like there's something for everybody.
Yeah, there is something for everybody. Yeah. Literally everybody needs to go see Moulin Rouge for sure. So if you're in one of the next cities, then you need to snag your tickets. They're going to sell out. As the tour continues, do you see yourself staying on this tour for a long time, or
I'll stay as long as they'll have me?
Yeah.
I'll stay as long as they'll have me.
Well, I think I'm going to go back and see the show again.
Please do.
You tell me which day you're going to be on stage again, or should I see the other Satine?
You should see Jerrica. Okay. She's so great too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I might have to go back and see Jerrica. I'm like, I love the show so much. I came home and raved about it to my husband. I was like, you have to go back, because this is like a love story. I was having a girls' night because I was like, oh, Moulin Rouge girls' night, all my soul sisters. And then when I saw the show, I was like, okay, this love triangle is just too much. I need to like just go take my husband and have a date night and go see it too.
I think this show is like a perfect date night because you know, for a lot of men, when they come to see a show, they're like, oh, I'm going to see a musical. Okay. Yeah. But I feel like they're surprised with how much fun they have and how much they laugh and how many songs they know. And like, I feel like it's a perfect date night. You know,
my husband was not altogether into theater until I started taking him to TPAC. Yeah. And he has been with me now to see Aladdin. He has seen The Temptations. He's seen Ain't Too Proud. He has seen To Kill a Mockingbird. He has seen so many shows at TPAC, and he enjoys every last one. And what I love about it is when we go to TPAC, we have to put our phones down. Yeah. And that's also the cool part about a live show is you have to put your phone down. You're not watching TV and scrolling through your phone at the same time. You're captivated by the actors and actresses on stage that are delivering, and you guys delivered in Nashville.
Thank you so much.
Congrats on a fabulous opening day.
Thank you.
I hope that your next 2 weeks in Nashville are phenomenal. We're going to go out and celebrate our birthdays.
Yes, we need to.
I'm going to pick you up and we're going to go to the Proof at the W. And we're going to hang out on the rooftop. And
that'd be cute. Yeah. I love a rooftop.
Grab some of your castmates. Yes. And we're just going to go have
they
a
would
good
love
time.
that. They love to explore every city and kind of like have a night. So,
well, I'll be your Nashville tour guide.
Amazing.
So. Thank you. What do you have next on your radar to explore?
Oh, I'm not sure. There are a couple collaborations that I know TPAC is doing with, like, there's one bakery and then there's like a cocktail that was created as well for Moulin Rouge. Yeah. So I want to go and check out and see if I can go, like maybe Monday to go to like the bar. Yeah. But like there's like a bakery with like a little eclair that is like sparkling diamond. So I was like, I'm curious about.
Do all cities greet you guys with this kind of hospitality? You know, because I will say Nashville does create, the bars create drinks. And like when we had Wicked in town, the whole city got Wicked.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. It just became like, yes, we embrace the arts and music and all of it. So yeah.
And we love that because we feel the love from the city. So it makes us excited to be here for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sitting down with me and coming on the Sweet House. Again, I think your story is so inspirational and so warm. And you are such a warm and joyful person who's clearly able to play a range of different characters. And so I think whether you're on stage or in real life, you're impacting people. And I hope that sits with you so much today, and that you go out there again tonight and just blow everybody away. I would be there every night if I could, but I've got to mom.
You gotta be
and
a
I've got a wife. So, because, it's all a juggle.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
But I appreciate you coming on the show, and I always give everyone their flowers when they come here. So I just love your voice. I think you need to be in a recording studio while you're in Nashville.
I would love that. I love doing in studio work.
Yeah.
So.
Music producers in Nashville. She's here for 2 weeks. You might want to get in contact with Arianna. She's going to be a bigger phenomenon than Beyonce.
Oh, wow.
I'm proclaiming this for her.
We'll come back in 10 years and I'll say, well, you heard it first here, I guess, right?
Yeah. And then actually she's going to release this huge album on her birthday, September 23rd. And then September 24th, we're going to have a huge party on my birthday. So we're kindred spirits.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so amazing. Thank you.